What is going on, everybody? Welcome to a semi-different version of the Empire State of Mind podcast. We are on a Wednesday instead of a Monday, and we are one man short for about a half an hour. So we're going to get into all the latest 49er news. We'll kind of recap the Monday game and then Monday night game, and then look ahead to the future because that's really all we got to talk about from now until next September. So first off, how you doing, Al?
Good, man. How are you?
Um, sad. Football is going to be ending soon, and we're not going into the playoffs. So it's a little jealous watching other teams get ready for the playoff run. And I guess the only positive spin I keep putting on myself, and I tell a lot of people, is at least we don't have to worry about losing in January or February again, which is kind of like a lame ass response, but it is pretty heartbreaking to lose a Super Bowl. Three times in the last three appearances. So that's the only way I can make myself feel better. But um, I know you and myself and other people I see on Twitter and X, a lot of people are already really looking forward to the draft already and thinking about the offseason. So it never stops.
No, listen. It's a reloading year. Things didn't feel right, when they were dropping obviously the NFC West games, and you might as well get excited about the promise and the potential for next year. I mean, we know what this year is, how it's going to end up. I mean, at least they guaranteed themselves a fourth place schedule with that loss against Detroit. That was big compared to who they're going to play versus who they would have played as a third place schedule. So things are completely lining up for hopefully a bounce back year. And I'm excited to see what the next iteration of the roster is, whether it's rookies, re-signing free agents, outside free agents. I mean, we're not going to know that stuff for 2 more months, but the Niners could take care of their own, starting with, I'm assuming, Brock Purdy, right whenever the season ends and they're available to, undergo extensions or restructures.
Yeah, that game Monday was kind of cool because it was like we saw the offense really do really well, which I don't know if that's the offense or it's just how bad and depleted the Detroit Lions defense is. Maybe it's a mix of both. Saw a little promise. There was a little excitement. Brock started really strong. And but I mean, as it's been all year, special teams and defense have let us down all year. And Monday night was nothing short of the same thing. Even the offense to some degree with the late game interceptions. It's been par for the course all season. I mean, they asked Fred Warner after the game, and he has no idea what's going on with the defense with no turnovers. Jair Brown, the same thing, which I don't know if that's an indictment on the players or it's an indictment on Nick Sorensen or is it an indictment of both? But it's it's sad that football is ending, but this iteration of the 49ers, like you said, is going to be different hopefully next year and then hopefully they're better. But this current iteration is I can't wait for the season to be done. It's been some bad football they've played in the last 6 weeks, man. I mean, Buffalo routed them. Losing to Miami. Who else routed them? The
Green
Packers.
Bay.
Like
Yep.
it's just been bad football after bad football. A lot of guys with their hands on their heads.
Yep.
Every time I see a highlight of Fred Warner, he's doing this constantly every play, and it's just like, man, if he's doing that, we really don't have a shot. If he's the so-called leader of the defense. So
No, it was, I mean, Monday night, the whole stat that there was a game with, no punts and however many points scored or whatnot since 1937 or something crazy. And as good as the Detroit offense is, I don't think anybody saw it going like that. I mean, we were talking before we went online. Niners scored 34 just like they did in the NFC Championship game, right? It's just this time the Lions scored 40 and they didn't score 31 or whatever it wound up being, the NFC Championship game final. As good as the Lions offense is, other teams have forced them to punt. Niners could not get off the field. It wasn't even that they were terrible on third downs. They weren't even getting to third downs
no.
all that much. Like Detroit was just doing whatever it wanted. Niners didn't get any pressure outside of Bosa. I think he led the team with 7 pressures, had the only 2 sacks that they had. Couldn't stop anything on the ground. Detroit went like 30 for over 150 yards. That was 5 yards a clip, and they were missing David Montgomery. They had a wide receiver as the backup to Jahmyr Gibbs. And the Niners were moving the ball as well. But Detroit, as much as they've struggled, say, the past month plus, they've been decimated all year. So you can't just say, well, Brock's performance and Kyle and Pearsall is just because Detroit's depleted. They're still going up against, you would like to assume, right, NFL caliber players that are going to be getting. They got after Brock. They got 2 interceptions by Kirby Joseph. There was a lot in the mix in terms of why the score ended up the way it did. And if Detroit doesn't get things figured out, they could lose on Sunday night, and they could be a one and done. I mean, as just because they can't stop anybody. I mean, they're going to be able to score, but a team can get to Goff and rattle them. I mean, the Texans defense wasn't anything tremendous, and they picked him off 5 times 2 months ago. He's been on a roll ever since. But it was, at least offensively, right? It was a Niners offensive performance that, now I don't want to say we expect to see, because how often do we expect Brock to account for 4 touchdowns? If he did that every game, he'd have 70 touchdowns on the season. That's not realistic, but it looked more normal offensively. And sadly, it looked very normal defensively, at least for this last calendar year, 2024.
There was some stuff I saw on, like Instagram or Twitter, like Brock's the reason, he's the sole reason we lost. And I'm like, no. I mean, your defense gives up 40 points, scoring over 30 points 99 times out of 100 should be enough to get a win in the National Football League. And the Nick Moody misses. I mean, and people are like, oh, they like, the stuff with Brock this year. It's always so overstated. It's the overreaction constantly, where it's all Brock's fault that they lost. And it's like, did you watch the game? Did you watch the defense essentially do nothing the whole game? Essentially, they just stood there and let the guys run by them. I mean, they were getting to the second level with regularity. I mean, they weren't even being touched until they hit the linebackers. And then, like you said, Nick Bosa was the only guy getting pressure in that whole game. Then there's a really there's an interesting visual from behind the quarterback, and it has Bosa coming around the edge, and everybody else is stonewalled, like in their place. And I just thought that was a really telling picture to kind of encapsulate what we saw on the game. But just these wild overreactions of like, it's one particular thing. And it's like, who watches games, and who watches just like the stat box. Like, I will say one thing though about Detroit, and I will say, I don't ever agree with Nick Wright. He is right though when he says that Detroit has a wild card, and it's not a good wild card. And that wild card is Jared Goff. For as well as he can play, he's always teetering on having one of those kind of Jared Goff games where you say, okay, this is why he's not an elite level quarterback, because he has the unfortunate propensity to have really shitty outings against, a team, and that team, the defense isn't stopping anybody right now. So you're right. They could be a one and done in the playoffs. I had one of their fans make a comment at the 49ers, that their Detroit fans were like, they came in our stadium and yada, yada, yada. And he's talking all this mess. And I'm like, dude, listen, you guys haven't accomplished anything. And I said, we put up 30 points on a Super Bowl supposedly caliber defense. I was like, you haven't accomplished anything beating a team that's been down all year. So to me, there was a lot of talk from the fans, especially Detroit fans, about the win. And I'm just thinking like if we put up 30 points on you with these, then the playoffs are not. I mean, Philadelphia has the chance, can score points. Minnesota can score points. Green Bay can score points. So, yeah. Let me. I saw my guy James down at the bottom. I didn't bring him in right away. So, hopefully he'll come back. But yeah, that was just to give me, the game was just it just encapsulated everything that we've saw all year. So, wasn't really a big surprise.
No. Listen, Brock's interceptions didn't help. He threw 2 in the fourth quarter, 1 on close to the last drive or last drive, whatever it was. He's thrown 6 fourth quarter interceptions. That's got to get cleaned up. And no one's going to say that he's had a better year than he had, last year or his first year. I mean, obviously no one's going to say that, but when he's missing those 40 touchdowns from Debo, Ayuk, and McCaffrey. Hey, James, what's happening?
I can't hear you guys though.
Uh-oh. Nothing would be. It won't be a stream with us without having some sort of technical difficulty.
Technical issues, I know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we could really go right into that Brock Purdy before we talk about the injury. I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel. I don't know how I feel about Brock at the moment. As far as I gotta move this brand over again. Hold on one second. We'll just go to all black for now. How about that?
There we go.
I don't know how I felt. Yeah, it's been disappointing. His fourth quarters have been definitely disappointing as of late. Somebody made a really good point though. My brother, and I tweeted it today. I said, "Didn't Josh Allen have a really big issue with throwing a ton of interceptions a couple years ago, and he seemed to get that cleaned up? I mean, can Brock have a similar evolution of his career? I mean, I feel like last year everybody was waiting for the other shoe to fall off, and eventually, if you wish for something enough and you wait for something enough, eventually it will happen. And I feel like a lot of those people that were kind of waiting for it to happen last year, now they're finally been proved right, by some, uneven performances. But I personally still have a lot of confidence in him. I just think he's young and he's, he hasn't mastered the game like some of the older head quarterbacks are in the NFL. Defense is still, Kirby Joseph had his number. That defense had his number in that particular game. But I don't think that's a sign of the 49ers need to start over at quarterback.
No, he's not a turnover machine. He's got one more interception than last year. The difference is he's got 11 more touchdowns last year than this year. He's not a turnover machine. Plus, he's accounted for 5 on the ground. So he's 25. He's accounted for 25 touchdowns and threw 11 interceptions. And yes, the untimeliness of the interceptions is bad. And it makes people wonder, and we're not excusing it. Like, is he pushing? Is he putting too much on himself? Is he pushing the ball downfield when he doesn't need to this late in games? And obviously just distribute it a little bit more underneath. Obviously, the no McCaffrey thing would help out with that. Although Grendel looked, at least good on that one, long reception down the sideline. And he did that twice now. That's the second time where he's made a catch like that. I think Brock has every chance to clean some of those things up and play a little bit more within the system. As long as Kyle's system isn't push the ball downfield. And of course, we know Brock and Kyle loves throwing between the numbers. And at some point, some team is going to jump on it. Kirby Joseph leads the league in interceptions for a reason. And a nod to him, the first interception he just overthrew Pearsall on. And I know a lot of people got him on that as if he can't make a bad throw. And Jared Goff on the other side of it, outside of Bosa's 2 sacks, I can't recall, did he even throw a contested pass? It felt like he had 8 incompletions, but every completion seemed to be a relatively wide open lion. Like he wasn't throwing into tight windows. There wasn't a lot of man coverage that he was beating with regularity. So tale of 2 quarterbacks, although they played eerily similar. Goff had the higher QB rating. Brock had the higher QBR just because he added some stuff on the ground, but the game went the way we all thought. They got a loss. They got the 4th place schedule, and it was a more competitive loss than any of us thought. We were watching into the 4th quarter, which a lot of us probably figured it was going to be a blowout. So, you can't satisfy fans like Giant fans, right? They get a win against the Colts. They're out of the number 1 seed, and people are all bitching about it. Brock throws 2 interceptions. People are bitching, but they got a 4th place. You can't make everybody happy all of the time, but just give me that 4th place schedule. Brock not playing, hurt, but not really, not the end of the world. Go out there, get a win against the Cardinals. I don't care. It doesn't affect, their draft position really or their schedule for next year. So we'll see what Dobbs can do.
How'd you feel about the game, James?
There was a lot to do with it. I was very happy with the way we played, because here's the thing. Yeah, Lions defense is beat up. But the fact that Purdy threw for 377, broke his single game record, the fact that Pearsall had over 180 yards receiving, there's many pluses in this game. Even though we lost, we played good. And yet again, it feels bad at the end because in the 4th quarter, like this whole season, it all collapsed. And it started in the 3rd, but it was really the 4th quarter. And the thing with Purdy is the only difference I really seen in him from last year to this year is his fourth quarter clutch. It's not there this year, and I'm not blaming Purdy for all that because look at the team he's had this year. He's playing against one of the best safeties in the league. Yes, he made an errant throw. The other one, it wasn't really all his fault, but it was
I think
it
that
was
was
up
more
in
of
the
a
air.
play of the DB on the throw than it was.
Yeah,
I think it was a better. He was baited essentially
yeah, he
on
was.
that throw.
He
The
was. The
other
guy
one
was
was
just
just an
waiting for it.
inaccurate, errant high throw, which
Yeah,
that's one thing I've noticed this year. He gets a little jittery in the pocket. He tends to sail some stuff. That's
yeah.
something he's got to get. He gets the Jimmy G sometimes.
Yeah,
You know,
and that's just that's just this year in a nutshell. If we really want him to be successful again, we need to build a team around him, and that is our ultimate goal next year. I hope is to bring a offensive line that can actually protect him. Of course, everybody's saying, "Oh, well, he doesn't get pressured as much as this guy or that guy." He's gotten pressured a lot this year. I don't care what the stats say. I don't care what the AI stats and all this crap says. The guy has been under pressure. You watch the game; he's under
Mhm.
pressure. So I'm happy with the game. We made a good fight. It just shows that the Lions are not as good as they were earlier in the season. It kind of puts a target on the Lions' back because
yeah.
if we a 6-10, a 6-9, 6-10 team beat them or almost beat them, then what the hell was the Eagles going to do to them? The Eagles are going to eat them alive.
Yep.
These other teams in the playoffs, they could eat them alive. So, if anything, we showed that we have a lot we're going to build on next year, and we can still bring it.
I think the Niners still have a ton of talent on their team.
Yeah.
They're just a beat up, emotionally, spiritually, physically team, and just things didn't go their way this year. I guess my only thing is like the team sometimes when they answer questions over the course of this season, and they make the statements of, well, we should be 8 in this, or we should be 9 in this. Our record isn't a reflection. That we've heard that a lot this year, and I hope that ego of some of these players kind of got knocked down a couple pegs. You are what your record is, like Parcells has always said. Like they're a bad team this year, and this whole mindset that I've been kind of getting tired of hearing, and I'm glad it. Sometimes I feel like them being humbled this year was the best thing that could have ever happened because they need to get rid of all that.
Yeah.
They got punched in the gut this year. They couldn't make adjustments. They've continued to be poor on defense all year. No matter what Fred Warner says in the pregame and how fired up he gets, it doesn't translate into anything. And so sometimes, like it was for me, it's like I was telling Al off screen, like if things are going to go bad, let them go bad all the way. So let's not
Mhm.
end the season on a 5-game winning streak, and then all of a sudden, like the Nick Sorensen thing, maybe that's not as big as a deal. Or
Yeah.
this player, maybe that decision isn't as big as. No, I want it to be
Oh
absolutely
yeah.
unquestioned when they go to make
And,
Yeah.
decisions in the
and the
offseason.
one thing that was Jake Moody. Jake Moody literally has thrown his
Man,
job away. Thrown his
yeah.
job away. So we don't. If there was any doubt in any of the John Lynch or any of those guys that we need to keep him or whatever, I'd be like, are you on drugs? Like, did you just see what happened?
Are we
Like
watching
we
the
would,
same game?
yeah, like yeah. So yeah, there's gonna be some changes for sure.
Um, we'll go to the the thing that was scaring me to half to death. All the people that talk about Brock might not be this, he might not that, might not be elite. I'll tell you what, when he got hurt on Monday, everybody's anus was puckered tight
Oh
after
yeah,
that game, including mine. And I
yeah,
was refreshing X all night. All night. I'm like, did we just lose our quarterback for next year? Like on that play? I mean, I was scared. And then, of course, the report came out that essentially he had an elbow contusion and he got his nerve nailed. And so, man,
yeah.
I don't
That
know.
was scary.
How are you feeling about that, Al?
It, it didn't look the same as the Philadelphia hit because he got hit with his arm kind of compressing into him versus getting hit going that way. So it didn't. and plus they were looking at his hand and his wrist more so than his elbow. And granted, it was his funny bone. I mean, it's just amazing how the Twitter and X doctors and people were out in force swearing it was a UCL tear. Oh, his hand went numb. That can't be good. You can't give Brock money. He's injury prone, also known as he's missed 2 games in his entire career.
Right.
And even Brian Baldinger kind of getting in on it. And he's had some fair takes in the past, but the last 2 being kind of really bad. This one being, and his quote was something like, well, look at Jared Goff. Jared Goff plays every game. That's what you need from your quarterback. D-Bag, he played every game last year. He played every game last year except week 18 because it didn't matter for San Francisco. And Kyle and the Niners' MO is if Kyle gets a quarterback with the Niners that play every game, they go to the Super Bowl in 2019 and 2023. Now you can say, well, shit, it's only happened twice in 7 years or whatever it is. Yeah, that's 8 years. That's a little bit of a problem, but this is a violent sport. But I hate when, and social media is just the root cause of this. Injury happens. People go to worst case scenario. People reach for reasons why, see, you can't beat Brock because of this and that. And now this injury is another reason why the non-believers or the haters or the cheap bastards or the uninformed or the dumb schmucks in general are going to have another thing to say about Brock. Meanwhile, when he gets extended for $50+ million a year, there's going to be per game roster bonuses that if he misses time, the Niners are going to get money back. They're going to structure it in a way. I mean, all will be well. All will be well. But when it leaves any sort of doubt on social media, people like sharks to blood, man. It's crazy. But it was what I thought it was. I mean, the Eagle game, it looked bad. When it happened, it looked like that's bad. This one didn't look as bad. And even after the game, Brock was like, no, they checked out my UCL on the sidelines. That was okay. We just want to see some imaging. So I'm like, all right, this is much ado about nothing. Just don't tell that to social media.
Yeah. Well, I forget exactly who you're talking about. I know exactly who you're talking about. I just can't remember who it was. But essentially, he had diagnosed that he already tore his UCL again. It was like, can we wait for
therapists online saying something like, come on, guys.
Can we wait for the professionals to make a statement? Kyle, like I listened to Kyle. Kyle didn't seem too concerned in the post game, which alleviated some of my worry. But Kyle's been wrong before with injuries and stuff. So to me, it's just another reason why they need to invest in an offensive line. He got blasted on that play. Brock's a pretty sturdy little guy. He's not like small and skinny. He's kind of small and thick. He's kind of tree stumpy. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Well, did you see the missed block too? The missed
missed block. It was there was nobody there.
It was just not a block. Yeah, he was literally supposed to block the guy on the edge, and he went towards the offensive line like he was going to help the offensive line back them up, like Taylor. And I'm just like, what are you doing, man? Like, that's the thing about hurry up offense with us. I think we need to do some more drills with that because I've watched a few games where we start doing hurry up offense. And we do that. We have like a guy on the edge ready to kill Brock Purdy. And we're like, it's fine. Just put a running back on him. And then the running back doesn't do anything. So it's like, we got to clean that up because that's something we've had a problem with for a little bit. But yeah, the clout chasers are going to clout chase. Mm-hmm. They're going to talk all this crap about Brock Purdy and forget about, and forget about everything he did last year. Everything he did last year, almost an MVP. Got us the Super Bowl, 7th round pick. The guy was going to be anything when he came in the draft, yet he threw ridiculous numbers last year. And this year, he had the most injuries in the league. He had all this crap happen, but it's Brock Purdy's fault. It's so stupid.
You could have saw that after the game. It was a comment on Facebook where it said Brock was the sole reason why we lost the game. They literally said the sole reason. And the person right below them, and then I commented, I said, most of the time, if you score 30 points, you usually win games, okay? Yeah. The defense let up 40 points. The kicker missed 2 field goals and an extra point. Like, stop with this, like, hyper-reactive, like, I don't know what it is with some people. Like, if they have something in their head, like a narrative, they listen to stupid people. Like, for instance, I had to block Chase Sr. I had enough of listening to him. I'm so tired of like people, no matter what they tweet or what they say, there's always like a kind of like a underlying kind of diss towards people with anything that they tweet. It's always like this, like I can't take it, man. Just report news.
Mm.
Stop with narratives. Narratives create division, and in the fan base are for a team that's been pretty good for the last couple of years. We have probably one of the most toxic, divided fan bases when it comes to a litany of things because of so much of this emotional media. You know, people that sit there in the room and interview Kyle Shanahan and act like a professional journalist, and then when they're on YouTube, they're a petulant douchebag. A pencil dick. I said it on Twitter, and I don't take it back. So
no, listen, Chase Senior has some decent takes, but for someone whose name is Senior, he has a lot of junior level takes, man. It's really weak sometimes, and obviously Grant Cohn and that whole clique. Yeah, Brock just like every quarterback gets way too much blame, way too much praise for stuff. It was a shootout. Neither defense showed up, and I think Aikman or Buck said it, maybe in the second or third quarter, like what defense is going to get a takeaway? I mean, forget it. What defense is going to get a stop? I mean, there were no stops. There were 2 takeaways. There were no punts. I mean, it was a good enough shootout and a good enough showing by the offense that I was encouraged. I mean, I don't know how you can be encouraged when there's 1 game left at, to end the season in Arizona. None of this carries over. I don't care what any players say. None of this carries over. You're talking about 4 months to OTAs, 6 months to training camp, 8 months to the next season. None of this stuff's going to carry over. Plus you're going to have 10 to 15 new players on the 53. So the whole chemistry thing and whatever it's not going to matter at all. They went toe to toe with the Lions, right? And it was fine. I was entertained for 4 quarters. That's all I can ask for. We were entertained, and they lost, and they guaranteed the 4th place schedule and helped their draft position. Everybody wins. And
we have
wins.
50 million over the cap. Unlike what's, Schefter thinks that we're over the cap. We're actually under the cap. So.
Yeah, 65 million under. He thinks we're 14 million over. It's
where the hell do you get those numbers? Where did you get those numbers?
It's no one doing research.
Yeah.
It's just a lack of research.
Jason Hurley.
Yeah. Go follow Jason Hurley. All right. I'm going to ask a really quick question, and I want people to give me a show of hands. Who on this team, who in this group, in our Empire State of Mind podcast, thinks that the Niners will have a new kicker next year?
Yep.
Was last night kind of like at least we think, was last night the final dagger in the coffin of Jake Moody? Either of you can go.
Go ahead, James.
That guy is done. I mean, he's beyond done. Okay, the fact is, that one kick, it was like 57 yards. I was like, and that was after the first one he missed. So I'm like, are you kidding me? You're gonna go for a kick after he missed a pretty reasonable kick to make, and you're gonna put him at a 57-yarder instead of going for it? Okay, like why the hell would we do that? Then the extra point, and I'm like, if he made all those, it would have been 41-40. We would have won that game. Well, we don't know if we would have won that game because our defense sucked. But, this guy is done. You can just see that, like, his face. I remember, Aaron, you said, he doesn't have a lot of emotion. He's just like whatever when he misses kicks. He kind of had some emotion in that game. He was showing like goddamn, like I'm losing my job. Like he was scared. And that extra point was just the cake, the topping on the cake, because it's like you can't even make an extra point, dude. Like you need to go. And I think Shanahan said, he's good for the end of this year, but the way he said that,
everybody's getting evaluated. He said,
yeah,
everything.
The way he said that though, he's like, yeah, he's just staying for this last game, and that's it. Like that's it. Don't worry.
Thank God.
I think he looked like he was trying to hold it together. Not that he was going to cry, but it looked like he was trying to hold it together. His post game or next day comments were, it sounded like his confidence was shot, right? And it sounded like, and he said, if you don't have confidence as a kicker, you don't have anything. He didn't come out and say, I have no confidence right now, but reading between the lines, it felt like he's in his own head. He knows it. He knows what people are saying. I mean, Christ, how much better could it have been for him if the whole Debo thing didn't happen? But now you're still missing. You have the Debo incident. It's what the NFL is showing, and what teams that the Niners have played is showing, is that you can find kickers anywhere, right? Like the Lions have either a rookie or a young kicker. The Rams, someone out of Stanford. They picked up Anders Carlson, Matthew Wright. I mean, the Brandon Aubrey from the Cowboys was in the UFL. I mean, they can find somebody. The investment of the third round pick probably wouldn't have mattered, right? Because it's the third round, it's a cursed round. Whoever they would have picked there would have sucked. They could have taken any position, it probably would have been garbage. It just happened to be kicker. But they shouldn't invest a draft pick. I mean, they should look at free agents. Wasn't it a year or two ago? Didn't they trade for the Panthers kicker, Pinheiro, or whoever it was?
And Gonzalez?
Yeah, Gonzalez. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, they could go that route. They could look at practice squads. I mean, you could basically find kickers off the street who will be better than 71%. Might not have the leg Moody does. That didn't seem to help on kickoffs against Detroit. I don't know, like he was getting it to the 5 with regularity. So I think the only question is, will he actually be flat out released sometime in the offseason? Or do they bring him in and have a competition with 2 or 3 other kickers and see what happens? Like my hand is like this. Like if you ask me, do I think they're going to release him between now and April? I don't know.
Maybe.
They very well might. They should, but I don't know.
Papa J says that he highly doubts Moody will ever play football again after this season. That's a bold statement, but my God,
should get an apartment with Devondre Campbell.
Right. So embarrassing.
The worst part about it is I love Kittle, man. He's such a stand-up guy. But
love that guy.
Stop with the always like. He's a good guy. He's a really good person outside of football. Nobody cares. We don't care. Yeah. We don't care. Yeah. This is the National Football League. It's your job to make kicks. Oh, it was a long kick. So what? There's a ton of kickers that have huge legs that make kicks. He needs to go. Sherman said it. Sherman, he said something about there's this thing where we try to not say offensive things about players, and everybody gets a let me say it. I can't even say it now. I can't say it. Everybody gets a trophy even when they lose. Oh my God, what happened to my brain? And so like he pretty much flat out said like, screw his feelings. Who cares what he feels? Cut him. Like it's over. It's done. It's finished. So if Richard Sherman was only a 49er for a couple of years, and as much as I hated him in the past, man, I love a lot of his takes because he's really, I can't say he's pro Niners, but he's very like he doesn't have a lot of like wild takes and outlandish overreactions like a lot of people do. So
he's down to the point. He really is. He's straight to the point.
Yeah,
I can't say the word.
I love Kittle, but you're right. It's just like you can encourage the guy all you want. Precipitation. Yeah.
I said it wrong again, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. You said participation. You said precipitation.
Okay. Anyway, sorry.
Precipitation is water outside.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what is he talking about? Water?
I having like an aneurysm or something right now. Is something going wrong in my brain? Like, what is happening?
The 49ers getting in your head.
A live stroke happening.
Yeah, if I start, something like that, then you guys know. So the Moody thing, I think we could also eject 49er throwback. Jake Moody is mentally broken. He's been mentally broken for a while.
Oh yeah.
I just think that was the biggest. I think that game was kind of the, as they would say, like kind of the writing on the wall.
You know what players don't talk about is like fans yelling like slurs and all that stuff at the games. That has to get in your head sometimes. And Jake Moody probably heard a bunch of that, so his brain is probably just depressed.
And I heard, the whole thing with the injury thing where people are like, "Oh, he's been hurt," like then don't play.
Yeah.
Go sign a kicker. I don't like that's not an excuse in the National Football League. If you're hurt, tell the coach, "Hey, coach, can't do it. My plant leg is, and I have a swollen knee or my ankle has got a fracture in it or something." Like this whole thing, well, he's been hurt, so we have to. No, like nobody cares. Go on the injured list and go sign a kicker. It's not that big of a deal. Like
Kyle's
there's a lot of
Kyle's trying to save face by saying that, but it looks like negligence now because of
Yeah.
how much it's impacted Moody's accuracy and the Niners in some games and how bad it looks. It almost sounded like on the telecast that fans were almost booing Moody before he even kicked. Like when they were lining up for field goals, you heard like rustling and uncertainness in the air. When there's usually quiet before a field goal, it sounded like people were bracing for the miss already, which is understandable. But I just thought it was funny. It almost sounded like like a rumbling of a garbage truck coming down the road. It was just an odd sound effect when Moody was out there.
I said it when he was about to kick it. I said, watch this loser miss this.
Yeah.
And I was right. I was like, geez.
I wish you could bet you probably can bet a bunch of money on him missing. But
yeah, I'm going to start can he stay the kicker? Can I bet $100,000 on
I know.
missing?
It's like real free money. Free money.
You touched on it, but I want to touch on it again. How important was it for Ricky Pearsall to kind of have the game that he had on Monday? So I was so happy. Again, the Lions defense is really banged up. So I'm trying to take it with a grain of salt, but like Al said, it's a professional NFL players, they're on the field, so they're expected to perform. So, I mean, I took it with a grain of salt, but I thought he looked like a guy that has some talent. He's a young player. Young receivers most of the time in the NFL struggle in the beginning and kind of come into their own. So it was nice to see not only the production, but just for what he's had to deal with and what he's had to come back from, to see the maturation process, even if it's like one game and he did really well. I really have a lot. I like the kid. I liked him, the person, Ricky Pearsall, the dude, because I think he's pretty fly dude. But like, it was great to see. So I was really happy.
Go ahead, James.
I think he has really stepped up. I think there's, he's dropped a few passes in a few games where I was like, he should have made that. He should have did this. But first and foremost, he's a rookie. He got shot this year. He's got a lot going on this year. So for me to see him have such a huge game, the defense isn't great, but for him to even make those catches made me a lot happier about what he is, because in college, what was he known for? He was known for making crazy catches, making good catches. He made pretty much every target thrown to him. I think he caught all of them. And it showed. I don't know exactly if he caught all of them, but I'm pretty sure he did. And the fact is, he's known for that, and he needs to step it up, because if Debo doesn't step up, and Juwan was kind of, MIA in that game. So for him to step it up in a game like that, it shows a lot. It shows that he's progressing. And that's the main thing you want to see with a rookie wide receiver like that. You want to see them doing better even when the season's over, because when you see a rookie at the end of the season, when the season's over, just tank, then okay, this guy isn't very motivated to get better. When he's going for 180 yards in the second to last game, you still know he's motivated to get better. So I'm happy with what I saw. I think, if I see him play, Philly or some big defense like that, and he does great against them, that'd be even better instead of Lions defense. But I'll take anything I can get, man. I mean, Grendo, him, Mustafa, all these guys are stepping it up. Mustafa, I saw that stat. He's got 66 tackles. I mean, that's pretty damn good for a rookie. So our rookies are stepping it up. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I think we're all happy for Pearsall, right? I mean, how much he went through at the start of the season, being MIA the last 4 or 5 weeks, so only a couple catches or 5 catches over the last 5 weeks, something close to that. So to have a big game, I think, puts fans, at least for 1 week, their mind at ease that, and I'll say the word bust, that he's not a bust, even though that's way, way too early and too harsh of a word to say. But with the Ayuk situation looming with his knee and how he's going to bounce back, I think fans needed to see, does Pearsall have the ability to be another dynamic playmaker, maybe more dynamic than Jennings or Debo, although Debo's had a little bit of resurgence. 2 weeks ago, this last game, it was only, 1 for 5 yards. And then I think another 16 yards on the ground and a rushing touchdown. So not a tremendous performance there. Good to see heading into the offseason. Now follow it up. Like, there's only one game left. Can he stack another good game? And that doesn't mean he has to go for over 100 yards on, 8, 10 catches, but, get in the 50s, 60s, maybe 70s, make an impact. I think the one thing I would say that, and this is not an anti-Pearsall thing, is I'm still curious what like an alpha receiver would look like in Shanahan's offense. Like someone like young receivers like Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas out of Jacksonville, like, your prototypical 6'2", 6'3", 210, 215, like T.O. junior type of receivers. The Niners receivers are generally, I mean, I know Pearsall's like what, 6'1", 6'2". It's not like he's a small dude, but like one of those DK Metcalf physical specimen type of people. Because the only person they have right now that can go up and get a jump ball that we've seen go up and get a jump ball like in the end zone is Kittle. And I know Jennings has had a couple in the field of play. Not to say that they're going to invest any free agent money or draft picks in that type of receiver. They have a lot of finesse guys, or they have some finesse guys in Ayuk and Pearsall. They have some physical guys in Jennings and Debo, and then they have Cowling. We have no idea, still have no idea what he is. But if they want to have these finesse, quicker type receivers, then Kyle has got to get back to a yak-based offense, and maybe that's in the cards for 2025.
I just like the fact that they fed him the ball.
Yes.
They tried to get him touches, and it took till the second to last game of the season for Kyle to understand that. We give Kyle about a lot of heat for things, but if guys are having a hard time remembering plays, lining up, having a hard time getting on the field for whatever reason, and then when Kyle gives them opportunities in different spots on the team and they fail, you're going to have a hard time seeing the field. I think Cowling behind the scenes, maybe he's struggling to, know the plays. Maybe he's struggling with different things. And so Kyle puts him on special teams and he struggles on special teams. So like he keeps putting himself in a place where, it's not as advantageous.
Well, he did come in and got called for the offensive pass interference
right away.
Cross with
Kittle. And it was it was.
It was.
All he has to do is put his hands down.
Yeah.
And act like he's running into somebody. Instead, he's like, right in front of the ref.
Not a good play.
You are right, though. We haven't had a big physical receiver since T.O. I mean, Crabtree was 6 foot tall. Juwan Jennings is, my height. He's like 6'3", which isn't, it's tall, but it's not like super tall as a receiver. 6'4", 6'5", some Kelvin Johnson type size guys. But would Kyle feature him? That's the thing. Would Kyle feature him? Or would Kyle be Kyle and be petulant and moody about stuff and force guys to show him that they're capable instead of just being like from jump being like, this guy is a physical specimen. He gets open in practice. He beats, our corners in practice. Instead of it being like this whole mental thing that Kyle does. To me, it's a detriment to your team from Sunday to Sunday when you have this thing, this arrogance, this cockiness where like these people have receivers or certain rookies have to prove this and prove that to you. Like just put them on the fucking field. Let's play, like enough with that. Like, how do we know? Like, Pearsall, he's been non-existent in a lot of games. And then all of a sudden 2 games to go in the year, we feature him in a game and look what happens. Like, it's just, to me, it's, I don't know. Everybody has stuff to work on in the off season, including Kyle Shanahan. Again, like I said, humility. Hopefully they have bags loads of humility going into the offseason after a season like this, including John and Kyle. I mean, they need to reevaluate what they did and how they can get better. And I know John Lynch is definitely one of those guys. I mean, just watch him in the press box during the game.
Oh yeah.
if he could have gone on the field and choked out freaking Renardo Green, I think he would have.
I think he would have, yeah.
Because I mean, but then that's Sorensen. Like, why are you playing off at the goal line? Like, what are we doing? Like, it's the goal line. Get up on your man. If they beat you man to man, that's one thing.
But... Oh, well, that was a complete bust.
Yeah.
That touchdown to Amon-Ra St. Brown on the right-hand side. Nobody knew. And listen, and Lynch's reaction just basically verifies what we all know. Like, in the terms of tanking does not exist in the NFL. That was a meaningless game for the Niners, for Detroit. Just want to get out of there healthy. And Lynch was taking it as if it was a playoff game or like a Super Bowl type of atmosphere. So there's never going to be a give up or quit just based on this being everybody's livelihood, especially the players. The only way you tank is if you play all your backups, right? And even then you can't, because this isn't college football where you have 100+ on your roster that you can play, anybody you want at any time. So Lynch and Kyle, everybody's dialed in. Brian Dable for the Giants, Joe Shane, their GM, Pierce for the Raiders. Like, folks, they want to win. They don't care what it does to their draft status, which is funny for some teams like the Giants, teams that need a quarterback. But yeah, John was, and listen, and Kyle with Moody's second miss. I mean, I think he was done, and he didn't give him a ringing endorsement. And just as a tangent, when asked about Nick Sorensen earlier in the week, he said the right things, but I don't think anyone asked him, Kyle, is he coming back next year? Because he didn't even hint that he would. All his answers were very vanilla, which leads me to be given some slight hope that as they evaluate everything, the most important metrics on defense, yards per play, running yard. They're decent with pass defense, but rush yards, third down conversions, red zone defense, and points allowed are putrid. You can't spin it any other way. And the way Kyle talked about Nick Sorensen, I would bet money that he's gone. I honestly would bet money that he's gone at the end of the season.
I really hope so.
The frustrating thing when I hear a guy like Fred Warner say, I just don't really know. It's frustrating. I don't know what the answer is. I'm like, how does a professional football player not? And
your coaches should be providing answers or putting you in the situation to have answers on the field. It's not happening.
Yeah, that to me is a reflection of the coach. But we got to stop always blaming the defensive coordinator all the time, because they did that last year at the end of the Super Bowl. They with all the way that they answered a lot of questions at the end of the game, where they were essentially throwing Wilkes under the bus for how they were lined up or what was called or whatever. It's like, you still got to go out there and perform your job. So I feel like it's a little bit of a cheap get out of jail free card with some of these players. And Fred Warner's played poorly this year, and how much of it is his ankle, we'll not know. But he hasn't been great. I've seen a lot of plays with him pouting and giving up and throwing his hands up in the middle of plays instead of hustling and going and trying to make a play. Like, he's not above reproach either. He's one of my favorite players, but when he's not on the field with Dre Greenlaw, he's a different dude. When he's on the field with Dre Greenlaw, it's like all of a sudden he's an all-pro and stuff. So I don't know.
Well, what do you guys think? Do you think the Niners players have learned from last year's flippant lips about Steve Wilkes, that they're trying to maybe be a little bit more professional, a little bit more buttoned up with Sorensen? It's very rare that you see a player take a shot at anybody, after a game, OC, DC, head coach, whatever it may be. And I know, Bosa was the one that says we have all the right players. It takes a while to learn the defense, which I still think is a bullshit thing. But I wonder if last year's, loose lips sink ships type of thing, that, with someone that was on the staff last year that they know of and probably like and respect, and it's his first year calling plays, that they're not giving him the Steve Wilkes treatment is entirely possible. But I think as fans watching the same vanilla crap every week, I think it's easier for us to say, like, or at least I'll just say for myself, don't give me this shit that it takes 12 weeks ish to figure out this defense. Not when you have a whole goddamn training camp, 3 preseason games, joint practices, and a whole lot of talented players, and you're running the same goddamn scheme for the past 7 years. You can't sell that to me. And if Kyle's going to need a fall guy, there's going to be 3. It's going to be Moody, it's going to be Snyder, and it's going to be Sorensen. And nobody would bat an eye. nobody would bat an eye.
Nobody would, not single one fan would sit there and say,
Nope.
"Oh man, we really should have kept any of those guys."
Yeah, it's
Like
like
anybody with a brain, yeah.
yeah,
Go ahead.
it's like a straight up, okay, I already knew that, but with Sorensen, yeah, I agree with you guys. I think they're kind of batting around the bush with saying, "Oh, it's his fault," because of blaming Wilkes. I think that happens to a lot of defensive coordinators around the league, though, because they're the coordinator of that defense. So you think, okay, this defense scored or allowed 9 points one game and then allowed 20 the next game. Oh, it's a defensive coordinator's fault. Well, it could be, but it also, you got to look at the effort of the players. I mean, there's a lot of players on that field that didn't play 100%. There's our the middle of our line is horrible. I mean, guys can just walk up the middle of the line. Our pass defense is really the only thing that's been good this year. So if there's anything we should do, of course, fire Sorensen, but take what we did well and give that to the next coordinator, because I'm sick of we get a new coordinator every year and then we just forget what we did the year before good. It's like, all right, let's do that again and then change the things we need to fix, because there's been so many changes with our defense in the last 6 to 8 years. I mean, from Salah to D'Amico Ryans to it always seems like we're getting better in another part of the defense and then we're getting worse in the other parts.
It's like we're restarting from scratch every single year.
Exactly. It's like, why can't we just build on it?
Get a guy
that build on it.
Yeah, get a guy that's just he can't be a head coach. He's just not good enough.
Yeah,
and he's reached that point, like Spagnuolo reached that point in his career.
And if we hire and we hire somebody new, please get somebody that doesn't look like a freaking high school kid. I mean, this guy's in the sweatshirt and the long hair. He looks like a guy that's going to go in the bleachers. Yeah, like he's going to go in the bleachers and smoke a joint. Like no, get a freaking Salah. Get a guy that looks like
in his basement.
Yeah, get a guy that looks like he plays football. Come
on. One of the things that was talked about today that I saw, which is really good news, is one, Charvarius Ward just had another child. I forget if it's a boy or a girl.
Yeah.
Boy. Yeah. Charvarius Jr.
Boy,
yeah. So congratulations to his family.
That's
and then
awesome.
Brandon Ayuk was spotted in the locker room, I guess, playing basketball. I don't know exactly what. And people were saying he was making jump shots and elevating, and he looked good. I mean, he got injured in 2 months ago. So to know that he's moving around that well in December, I mean, I'm a little nervous about it, but it's good to hear, because now he still has a whole offseason to even get even better and stronger. So for all the worries that we've had about him not being available to say mid-October, that could maybe not be the case. Who knows? Maybe he's ready to go at the beginning of the season. I wouldn't push it, just like I didn't really want Greenlaw to come back this year. But if he's ready, he's ready. And then, like you said, and on defense, do the same thing on offense. Let's take the things that we've done well and add it to what we have already, take what you did well and then incorporate new stuff and try to be, for instance, we fed the ball to Pearsall in the last game. Well, let's keep doing that. Stop starting over, get a guy in here who's going to be a defensive coordinator and have him stay a couple of years.
Yes.
And let him form an identity for this team, and maybe a new identity. Maybe the wide nine is gone. Maybe the Chris Kasarik, takes a hike and some other things happen. Maybe certain people have to lose their jobs. But to hear the thing about Charvarius Ward and then Brandon Ayuk, I thought those were two really good pieces of news today.
It's the Ayuk thing made me think of remember last year when Kirk Cousins was out there dancing? Was it like NFL honors or something? Like he was out there doing like some sort of a dance number, and that was basically his audition for free agency to sign with the Falcons, saying like, "Hey, my Achilles is okay." And I guess the body in the Achilles held up for 14 or 15 weeks before he got benched by Michael Penix. Yeah, that was interesting to hear about Ayuk. Taking jump shots. I mean, at least at this point, I don't know when his actual surgery date was, because he got hurt in October, right? But he's probably off crutches.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he would have to be if he was.
There's a picture of him in one of the players' booth, either with his girlfriend or his wife. with
Okay.
his arm around her, and he didn't look like he had a walking boot or anything. So
Huh.
So every
That's
surgery is
bad.
a success until there's a setback. Like, with Drake Jackson, everything was looking good, and then the knee didn't respond, the patellar tendon, and he got, put on the shelf, D-end for the year. I would still not rush. I mean, they didn't rush Dre Greenlaw back. I mean, they got him back when he was healthy. Same with Hufanga when he tore up his ACL. I would still imagine him starting on the PUP list, and if he does, that means there's probably going to be, well, not there probably, there's going to be an extra spot open at receiver if they carry 5 next year, and whether that's a draft pick or if there's someone, a free agent they want to bring into the mix. But yes, going back to the point of like force feeding Pearsall, they fed Pearsall, they fed Kittle, they fed Jennings at the expense of Debo. Remember, Debo got 2 carries the first drive. He had 1 carry the rest of the game and 1 reception. Like, he disappeared at the expense of, I guess, people that were actually getting open and running routes.
49ers throwbacks already got people lined up in the draft for the 49ers to take. He says, Aaron, let's go
Nice.
draft offensive tackle Calvin Banks and tight end Tyler Warren from Penn State. Hey, I'm all for it. I
Yeah.
haven't even looked into the draft yet.
Yeah.
I probably won't do that till January, maybe early February. I'll start looking at the draft. I take like a couple position groups of interest that I'm interested in, and then I go look at that. I don't know how people like John Chapman, bless his heart. I mean, that guy knows everything about every player, and
Yeah.
his draft coverage is awesome.
Yep.
He's one of the best YouTubers out there, and I'm not kissing ass because I want to get on his show. I'm being just dead ass serious. He's really talented. He's been really outspoken this year, which I think is incredible. I think I tweeted, I'm like, I have never seen you like this before, because he's a very positive spin type of person, and to see how he pissed off he got during some of the games this year, I was like, whoa. So yeah, if you don't know much about the draft and you want to learn stuff about the draft, go watch John Chapman. He's really good.
If you guys want to have fun with, because I've been doing some college mock drafts. So either like just type in mock draft simulator in Google, PFF comes up. There's mockdraftsimulator.com. And I've done like the permutations a couple different ways. And I have done drafts, and I've taken Kelvin Banks at like 11 or 12, wherever the Niners were sitting, or 14, a week or 2 ago, just to see what's the permutation, right? If they go, and I don't think they're going to go O-line in the first round. It just seems to be against their MO of who they've become.
I think they go edge.
After the Mike McGlinchey era. Yeah, I think it's going to be either D-line, D-tackle, or D-end, right? And I think they could probably, and the way, and granted, mock drafts never work out for anybody the way that it actually works out in real life in April. But if they feel like they can get a tackle in the 2nd or 3rd round, and they have 2 third-round picks, I would, in no particular order, their first 4 picks, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 3rd, should be D-tackle, D-end, an O-lineman, and a tight end. They need, because both Tonjes and Saubert are free agents, they need a young tight end behind Kittle, someone that they can groom, and then obviously bring in a blocking specialist. So yes, guys, have some fun. Good way to kill 10, 15 minutes. You don't know anything about the prospects now. You will, the more you do the mock drafts. You get to learn, height, weight, measurables, all that good stuff, especially if you're on the toilet and you want to, kill 15 minutes.
Dude, that's when I do my best work.
Cool. Yeah.
49ers throwback says that we need to do a draft day 1 show, maybe like a live reaction. I'd be down to it.
That'd be cool.
I mean,
cool, yeah.
The only thing is do we go the whole first round? Or are we on like 4 hours? Because do the Niners? Here's the thing. I think the Niners go center in free agency. Al, you talked about the Niners might not make a bunch of big moves, but they might make a bunch of medium moves in free agency. And I think one of the positions, Kyle doesn't like rookies, and he definitely don't like rookie centers.
Yep.
Rendell has to go. He sucks. He's bad. He's awful. Anything you could think of that means suck, he's those things. So if they can make a move in free agency, I would love to see them go center. I don't know what else you bang out in free agency. I don't know
maybe
what position.
Maybe a linebacker.
For depth.
For depth.
What about maybe one big move? Maybe they go free safety in free agency, and they go get themselves an actual real free safety, like keep Mustafa as a box safety. he excels at that. I'm starting to think, just by watching games, I think we all kind of overstated and kind of maybe overvalued what he's been. Been pretty poor. Some of his angles and tackling in games. I mean, just bad. Just like whiffing, running past players. I'm like, wow. I guess I was caught in my feelings about Huff. He don't really look all that good. So, and Jair Brown, of course, he's a liability in everything, pass and run. So, yeah, I mean, like if there's two positions I think they could solidify in free agency, I would go center and I would go free safety.
Yeah. No, and center, when they signed, they brought in all those offensive linemen this week, right? Austin Pleasance and Charlie Heck were rotating at left tackle. Nick Sakiel played left guard. Actually, the line, for as patchwork as it wasn't terrible. I mean, it really wasn't awful. It's not like they got to Brock.
They had no push in the run game.
Nope. Yeah. I mean, the Lions, they only ran the ball, I think, 18 times, and 4 of the runs were by quarterbacks. Corner, I was going to say too. Yeah. I mean, and listen, do not be
all
shocked.
They threw on. That's all he threw on the whole game. Yeah. Nobody else was giving up anything.
Well, don't be surprised if Isaac Yiadom comes back at like vet minimum, or Arak Yassin. I don't think they have much faith in Darrell Luter. I mean, they put him on IR. They could bring Nick McLeod back to play special teams as well. They could draft a corner, and they could bring in a veteran just so they have a solid 3 with Green, Lenore, and somebody else. And I think
DJ Reed from the Jets.
Isaac Yiadom might be Dante Johnson part 2. Like, he might be the secondary player that coaches like better than fans do. So Matt Hennessy got brought in to sign to a 2-year deal. So he's already in the building and will be competition for Jake Brendel next year. But I don't think that would preclude them from, if they're drafting a center or a guard that could play center, it's probably not going to be until the 4th round at the earliest, probably the 6th or 7th. They got work to do on the O-line. They should be bringing in at least 3 new faces from outside the organization, even for their 90-man training camp roster. And should probably even be more than that, with undrafted rookie free agents and all that good stuff. When it's all said and done, the O-line the starting 5 might have 1 new face in it, because I really think Ben Barch is going to wind up winning the left guard spot, and maybe they find a center in free agency, and it's going to be Williams, Barch, new center, Pooney, and McKivitz, and people are going to revolt.
Yeah, I really hope it's not like that.
That's the sad part about it, Al, is as much as I want to disagree with you,
the backups could be Niners. They could have 3 new backups, but I don't know if the frontline guys are going to be all that different.
They don't want to spend anything on offensive line. It's ridiculous.
Miami Dolphins have the same problem. If you talk to my brother, one of the biggest problems Miami has is their offensive line. They get all the quarterbacks killed.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they're so the Shanahan mindset, and I love Shanahan. I'm not an anti-Shanahan guy. It's all about the playmakers. But to get the playmakers the ball, don't you need a line? Like someone to protect your quarterback?
Yeah.
And I mean, God dang, dude, like Purdy got obliterated on that hit that hurt him on Monday. Like how I don't understand. Like, I understand the obsession with the toys, the shiny players, the wide receivers, the running backs, the tight ends, the edge rushers, but it's the dirty work guys. It seemed like the 49ers never seem, and that's a philosophical organizational issue that's they don't see it as an important thing. In a way, they almost look at the offensive line like they do running backs. It doesn't matter who it is. It's if you can run our scheme, you can be successful. That's why guys like Jeff Wilson Jr. still have a job, and guys like Mostert, who's hurt all the time, but he still has a job. Breida finds his way around the league. He still gets playing time here and there on different teams. Like, to me, it's a philosophical organizational thing. If this was a different run organization, say like the Lions or another successful team who put more onus on having, a guy like Penei Sewell on their offensive line, then maybe the Niners would look a little different. But I think the Niners are always going to draft. Defensive line is always going to be the thing that they always focus on more than ever focusing on offensive line. And especially this year with you guys watched the game. I mean, other than Bosa, they didn't touch.
Well, I mean, that's what, if you had to pick, and I don't think you have to pick, because I think they're going to address both lines in free agency and the draft. But if you had to pick one to devote more resources to, I would say the D line, because they got blown off the ball by Detroit's very good O line. So it's like ironic, and it's a catch-22 that we're saying that. But in terms of stopping the run, finding another viable pass rushing edge that would maybe bump Leonard Floyd to just coming in on third downs, and Utier can maybe play inside a little bit more than he even has. I think the D line is going to be more of the pressing concern, because they're the anchor of that defense that's gotten abused this year. I mean, when teams run on the Niners, they're not going for $110. They're going for $160, $170, $180. They've gotten run through, and they just might not have the right pieces. And if it means, a solid, a top 12 draft pick and a free agent, and one of Collins or Jordan Elliott or Hargrave has to go, then so be it. They may need like an almost complete revamping of the interior of that offensive line. As much as we love Evan Anderson, he's an undrafted rookie free agent for a reason. Are we saying he's untouchable and he's not repeatable? Of course not. Like,
I've never seen the allure with Evan Anderson. I mean, he's okay.
I don't get it.
I don't pee my pajamas every time I see Evan Anderson on the field. Like, to me, Peter Gross-Matos and Floyd are, to me, they're essentially like specialty rushers, coming in on certain downs. They need to get their base down defense figured out, like their defensive tackles, their defensive ends. Bosa was the only one really getting pressure. Schematically, I really, and I've said this before, and a lot of people think, he's done amazing for so many guys, is Chris Kasarik, the wide 9.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it in the chat. I was watching. Did I see it in the chat? Or I saw it. I don't know if it was like a YouTube live stream or a Niners guy was talking post game or like during the Monday night game. And one of the things he says is like, is Chris Kasarik possibly somebody the Niners could get rid of? I mean, the wide 9 looks like it's ran its course. It gets absolutely gobbled up in the run game with those splits. Your line is so wide open.
Wide open.
And if you have a good offensive line who has a good scheme, I mean, they get boat raced on the ground. It's not even competitive. So
bring back Jim Tomsula.
Yeah. I mean,
don't put him near a microphone because he likes to rip ass when he's near a microphone.
That's true.
Yeah. Anybody that thinks, that our defensive line looks talented is just doesn't know what it is, because it's like, here's the thing with our whole talk on this. We want all this stuff, but what is actually going to happen? I think we're going to draft 2 defensive linemen. I think like that I said that a few weeks ago when we got, Armstead, and then the next year we got or vice versa when we got Buckner. And I think that's like our number 1. So it just sucks that the Niners just don't make the offensive line it's not a priority at all. Here's Williams. He's been out pretty much this whole year, and watch us not even get a tackle. It's like, why would we not get a tackle? This guy's 36, 37 years old. He's going to probably retire soon. You need a tackle, even if he stays next year.
He could retire this year.
McKivitt's on the other side, who hasn't really done anything. It's just, I don't get what Kyle Shanahan thinks. It's like, if you look at all the good quarterbacks coming up, most of them had good offensive linemen. Tom Brady, he would sit back in that freaking pocket for 20 minutes because he had a good offensive line. You look at Mahomes. Mahomes has got a pretty damn good offensive line. Yeah, they do allow pressure. Goff, great offensive line. Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts probably has the best offensive line in the game, because he's got Mailata, he's got Landon Johnson, he's got that offensive line. I think is the best in the league by far, the Eagles' offensive line. And it's just insane that Kyle, a guy that knows football, doesn't look at these great teams and is like, what do they have in common? Why do their quarterbacks do good? Well, I wonder what. It's their freaking offensive line. Wake up, buddy. It's crazy. He doesn't see that.
He needs to adapt. Everybody needs to adapt. He was brought to attention a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
somebody said, there's been a lot of talk that you need to adapt and you need to change. And he pretty much said, we do every year, or we do it during the season. It's something that happens constantly. Things don't stay the same. Well, I mean, we all know that there's a good chance. This is the only way I could see the Niners going about things and still end up not drafting what we want. Is taking that pick at 11, trading back to, like, say 15, picking up a late round pick and going defensive end and then wide receiver. And everyone's like, well, what are you doing? But it's totally possible.
That's
you know what I
what's
mean?
going to happen. We love wide receivers in the draft.
We love overdrafting wide receivers that don't get any playing time because they're in Kyle's doghouse. It's like,
it really feels like out of like legitimate, forget quarterback, and people were saying, oh, the Niners should draft a quarterback, and felt like, the morons that are saying whatever because they're anti-Brock people. Honestly, it probably is just running back and receiver are the only positions to me that are off the board in the first round. I mean, I guess tight end too, right? Because that would be a complete waste since Kyle cannot utilize a tight end. But when you think about, could they use another corner with Ward being gone? Sure. Someone on the O-line? Absolutely. D-line? Absolutely. A safety if Hufanga goes? Absolutely. Receiver and running back, I guess their skill positions on offense they're pretty set. I mean, you could argue wide receiver because of Ayuk's injury, but that's not career threatening. He's going to be coming back. I mean, hell, if you wanted to go nuts, you could say kicker in the first round, right? Who was the only specialist one in the first round? Was it Janikowski?
Janikowski,
yeah, for the Raiders, and then they took Leckler a couple years later as a punter in like the third round or whatever it is. There's not much that's off the table early. There really isn't. Now, that's why it's fun to do mock drafts, because you can be like, oh, we filled this hole, that hole, that hole. But free agency comes first. And that's going to be filling a lot more of the holes for Kyle because of the whole anti-rookie thing. So that's where, like, when we were talking, that's where I think the center is going to come. Do I think that they could find a Tayshaun Gibson type 2 in free agency? That's maybe, not super expensive. Absolutely. Could they find a running mate for Warner at linebacker? If it's not Greenlaw, not being a rookie, absolutely. So we all jump to the draft because it's like the great unknown of like all these young players and foundational type players, but free agency is going to dictate so much.
Yeah, free agency is going to tell the story.
And also, it depends on what we pay Purdy too, because if we pay Purdy a ton of money, there ain't going to be a lot of money to get free agents, And
well, no, they'll definitely have enough cap because it's all structured. He'll make nothing this year in salary. He'll make it all in bonus. Like they're going to front load that signing bonus this year.
Yeah,
that cap number, in the first 2 years is going to be like.
Well, it also
allow them.
Greenlaw.
When they have over $50 million under the cap, and they haven't even done any restructures or let anybody go. I mean, that could be upwards of 70, 80 million by the time free agency starts.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think money is going to be an issue. I mean, all you have to do is listen to Jason Hurley. I mean, the Niners right now are about 51 million over or under the cap, something around there.
Yeah,
they're going to once they roll over, they're going to be 65 million under for next year.
Yep. So the Niners all the people that think the Niners are going to have a lot of money get, like Adam Schefter, need to do their homework. Two more last things. I wanted to get to John and Kyle being told that, not being told, but Jed York was asked, their jobs are safe. Anybody ever had a question about that? I know you guys get asked tons of views and you make a boatload of money off of YouTube, idiot, people that worship you and pay $60 to ask a question, but it doesn't matter. They're still going to be here regardless of that. So are you surprised?
No, not at all. I mean, they're one of the best coaches and GMs in the league. So why the hell would we get rid of them? I mean, that's just a stupid thing. If we got rid of them, our next season wouldn't look too good. I know that for a fact. And that's all it is. That's literally all I got, because if you think anything else, I mean, you're not watching football or something.
I think, they're not. They'll probably play out the entirety of their contract unless something catastrophically bad happens. People were bringing up the comparison between Kyle and McVay, that they came into the NFL the same year. McVay's had, I think, one losing season. Kyle's had 4. Kyle and this team, it's boom or bust. Now, granted,
That
Kyle
was
took
my
over in
last
2000
topic that I wanted to exactly. Boom
Yeah,
or bust.
I mean, Kyle took over a completely talent bereft team in 2017. Got a little bit better in 18 with Jimmy coming over at the end of 17 in the trade. Then he got hurt, blew his ACL out early in the season, and things kind of went downhill again. But it is a very boom or bust situation. And as top heavy as the team is, it's not like they don't have depth. So I think there is something to it's not a narrative, but the train of thought that Kyle doesn't utilize as many players as someone like a McVay does. So when things go off script or go to shit, the
Right.
whole thing doesn't collapse in on itself. Now, McVay never really dealt with significant quarterback injuries for extensive periods of time, which is going to tank essentially anybody's season anyway. But I think there still was enough talent this year, top to bottom, that they probably were a better team talent-wise than 6-10. I mean, the proof is in the pudding with the play and the coaching and everything. So there's a myriad of reasons why they're as bad as they are. Collapses, fourth quarter stuff, a whole lot of things. But I think there is also something to Kyle maybe not being able to maximize or utilize those second line players across the board, O&D, that when their number's called, they don't have the snaps under their belt to perform at an adequate backup level. And when injuries hit, this is the result. It's almost like I got to play. What? And then you have the miscommunications and the false starts and all, and then the penalties that just keep shooting themselves in the foot. But I didn't want to jump the gun. I didn't know that was the next thing you wanted to talk about.
It was essentially I don't understand how it's either the playoffs in a Super Bowl run or an NFC Championship run, or they completely everybody's hurt and they miss the playoffs. Like I've never seen a franchise that is either like one or the other. It's frustrating. And I want to bring up before the end of throwback. So Kyle Shanahan kind of put Grant Cohn in his place today. So Grant Cohn said to Kyle, he goes, "Are you frustrated with your individual performance this season, or do you feel like you can control things that you can control?" Kyle says, I don't understand how to answer that question. I work as hard as I can at my individual performance, so I'm frustrated with our season and responsible for everything." Somebody asked her, like, do you think Kyle hates? I don't think that anybody on that team respects that guy because he's two-faced. He's one person in the media room, and then he's a pencil dick geek douchebag on YouTube who everybody loves because he goes against he goes against Kyle and he holds people accountable. Like, okay, you can hold people accountable and not be a douchebag, and act like you're cool with players and coaches, only to come on YouTube and shit all over them. So, like, yeah, whatever.
Jed York holds John and Kyle accountable. YouTube douchebags hold no one accountable in their lives outside of the people that live in their house.
Yep.
Or the people that pay $60 to ask a question on YouTube.
And there's a difference between asking hard questions and being an antagonizing prick. I mean, Matt Mayoko and Matt Barrows, like they can ask, difficult questions phrased a certain way. Like, I don't think everybody lobs softballs at Kyle, John, the coaching staff. I think there's a way to ask it. And there's a way that, Grant Cohn has a way of asking it where he just comes across. And I think he wants to as an antagonizing prick. It almost looks like he's like, fighting the system. And like, he's not the people's champion. Like, he's not The Rock. He's not the people's tight end. He's not the people's YouTuber. You're not the people's reporter. You are, you're a bag of shit stuffed into a cheap Kohl's outfit. Like, that's essentially kind of what he is.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
there's so many YouTubers now. It's like, even if you're the top ones, like, you're not like the guy that everybody wants to talk to. You don't.
None of us make any decisions on the 49ers.
Yeah.
Our opinions
none of us are like,
nothing.
oh, this player's moving here. This place, shut up. That's all I gotta say. Shut the hell up.
And I had another one. I'm not going to use the name. Like, I've heard this high profile YouTubers say stuff like, well, since I'm in the public eye, no, you're not, douchebag. You can walk down the street and no one will know who you are. Like there's
exactly.
a little fiefdom of couple hundred Niner people that know you. Congratulations. It's astounding the ego and the folks that are actually making a living doing this. God bless them, because
I have no issue.
No issues.
And
it's
I
not
don't
jealousy.
hate on people making money on this. Yeah. All I'm saying is, just because you have a bigger following, it doesn't mean you're right. And just because people will pay to ask you questions doesn't mean you're right. Everything you say in your live streams or that your followers say, Kyle and John don't come into your YouTube chats and see what you're talking about. They don't care.
They don't give a shit.
This whole thing where Kyle, needs to be fired and this player needs to be traded. I think, what was the one? Who said that? Was it Stats Guerrera that the Niners should have traded Kittle?
Oh, yeah.
And Kittle has had one of his better seasons on a way less down to, the level of targets to the level of productivity is just insane. And it's just like people need to go and listen to things and watch things and just know that when you're watching these shows or these people that, have thousands of people watching them, like the 49ers organization they don't watch YouTube. Like there's people that get paid millions of dollars to make these decisions, namely Jed York. And he's already said that they're coming back. And guess what? No matter what anybody says or what you think about, the Niners shouldn't pay Purdy anything more than $40 million. Like, who are you? Like,
are you the GM?
You're not the GM. You don't make the contracts.
Yeah.
They're not. I'm telling you right now, if the 49ers would have lowball him at like $40 million, that would be an organizational, what's the word I'm looking for? Like malpractice.
Yeah.
Right.
Are you serious? The starting salary for me to even start negotiations is probably going to be $55 million plus to start. So all this talk about he needs to come in and take a team first deal. Like, who are you? Get out of here.
Who out there took a company first deal when they switched jobs or negotiated a raise? And just to put a bow on the Cone stuff, the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC had large followings also. Doesn't mean it was good music.
Yeah. And like you guys said, if I saw John Lynch on the street, I would know who that is. If I saw, Eddie D on the street, I'd know who that is.
They wouldn't know who we were, though.
Grant Cones or freaking, I don't give a shit what your name is, fucking Frank Samatalo or whatever the hell you are, talking about, oh yeah, Purdy should get $10 million a year. I don't even know who you are, bro. I don't care how many people watch you. You're talking shit that doesn't even make sense.
When they say that they're famous and that they that's the one thing about YouTube. People who have big followings and have platforms where they're
huge.
They are so in their own delusional mindset of how important that they really are. Just the way that they're hey, want to do a stream together? Hold on, let me look through my Rolodex. I can't seem to. I can give you 10 minutes on a Thursday at 3 p.m. It's to that level of ridiculousness. That's why I like that I found both of you guys by happenstance, and you can have a level-headed, non-ego-filled 49ers discussion with people that don't make nothing off of YouTube.
Yep.
And the only reason we're on here for the 10 people that watch, or 5 or 3, is because we just like talking. We like talking 49ers, and that's it.
Yeah.
And that's all that really matters.
Yeah.
Any of that other stuff, man, I have no ego. The only thing I always get mad about is just the fact that anybody who does this, do they actually think that the organization scrolls through YouTube streams to try to get ideas of what they're going to do next season? Get out of here. Stop.
And I don't know, Aaron, I think they go see your stuff, No, I'm just
I wish.
Anybody out there that's posting just sentences or images or video saying anything about Brock getting less than 50 or he should get less than 50, or I think the big thing with Colin Cowherd this week is you can't give A+ money to a B quarterback. And the one way that no one ever thinks about, and I'm probably going to talk about this tomorrow on my podcast, is what's the big discussion with Brock? Why they can't pay Brock? Because then he's not going to have anything around him, and he needs the Avengers and everything around him to perform. Why is it that no one looks at it as the shit's built already? Everything's around him already. Now he just needs to get paid. It's not like this is a team up against a salary cap that has no talent or no offensive weapons, and they're finding a way to pay the quarterback. It's built, guys. Now you're rewarding your gunslinger for what he's shown the past 2.5 years. And the only thing that's going to cause the Niners to lose players next year, 26, 27, is probably age or a really, really bad contract and they have to get rid of somebody. But even this year, if they lose a linebacker in Dre, okay. They lose Hufanga, hopefully Mustafa, or they bring someone else in to fix that. Travarius Ward's going to be gone. I mean, okay, they're going to have to find someone else there, but someone like a Debo or an Ayuk or a Kittle, it's not like Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, McCaffrey, Trent Williams, that they're all going to be gone next year. This isn't the first year after Harbaugh left where like 30 players were gone and it was just a barren wasteland of nothing. They may lose a couple players a year, but no one's going anywhere for Brock in the foreseeable future. That's why, that's why John Lynch and his staff are going to be making their money to make sound choices in free agency and the draft moving forward. And then, when they have to make hard decisions about a Hargrave, about a Debo, about a Hufanga, Greenlaw, they're going to have to make those difficult decisions. But the thought that they're going to lose their entire core, these 8 players all gone next year, Brock, enjoy throwing to a bunch of undrafted rookie free agents, is lunacy. It's built. Now you're rewarding the most important player on the field.
That's what happens when you promote and you put on a pedestal people that report narrative-based content that has no actual factual value behind it. I mean, just look at, I said Schefter, the Niners are $15 million over the cap. That's an incorrect number. Do your homework. Anybody who tweets on Twitter that the 49ers are going to be in salary cap hell if they pay Brock, you need to do your homework. Like, stop. Use your own brain, do research.
Yeah.
Come to the answer that you're looking for. Stop. Don't listen to me or Al or James. Do your own homework.
Yeah, to back up what Al said, it's like, do people get that we have last year's best running back still? We still have the best tight end in the league. In Kittle, you get that we have 2 running backs behind the best running back that have been successful this year in Mason and Garendo. I mean, it makes me so pissed off when it's like, oh, the Niners have nobody, so get rid of Purdy. It's like, no, we have plenty of weapons. We have the best left tackle. I mean, yes, he's been hurt.
They have a really good young secondary.
Yeah,
Amador Lenore, Mustafa, Bernardo Green. I mean, like,
they forget about
actually
that.
Talented.
They forget about that. And
Moses is still here.
Yep. They forget all about that.
They have a lot of players that are making like top 5, top 7 money at their individual positions. So that's where they become a little bit, top heavy, but they have contracts after June. Like, they can get out of Gross Matos or Floyd or Collins or Hargrave or Elliott on the D-line, their contracts easily and slash half or more of what their salary cap number is if a better player comes along. Better / cheaper, of course. So there is more flexibility, I think, than people think with this team and how talented they are, that the narrative of if you pay Brock, they can't have the pieces there anymore is so untrue. They'll probably lose Trent Williams to retirement before they would have to make a decision of, do we have to cut Trent because his play is slipping and we can save money? It's still going to be a same top 3 to top 5 talented roster. Does it need work? Absolutely. Do the coaching staff need work? Absolutely.
Does Brock need to improve from this year? Yeah. To say that he doesn't need to improve, and I mean, did Brock play his best football this year in 2024? I don't think so. Has
No.
he regressed somewhat? Yeah, but the
Yep.
whole team regressed.
Yeah.
This was a team-wide failure all around. Like, and I'll leave it at this because it's an hour and a half. When I saw that response on a video where it said that the sole reason we lost last night Monday was Brock, I'm like, I can't get down with that sort of idiocy with this fan base. We're like, did you watch the game? The defense gave up, over 40 points, almost 200 yards rushing. I mean, are you serious? Are you watching the game? The kicker makes 3 kicks, 2 field goals, and an extra point that would have gave us the victory on the game. So there's just a lot of that like overreaction or just like completely bias, like crooked view towards a team. Like, well, I'll end it on Strawberries reacts. People get on Lombardi for his glaze in the organization, but at least he reports facts instead of inaccurate speculation. That's all it really comes down to. You. If you can report facts and not report your feelings, or have a super Marvel clubhouse of YouTubers that all glaze each other all the time and all have the same mindset of like they have all this inside information and what they know is better than any other YouTuber. That kind of stuff. Like, do your own homework. Watch what's on the television and come to your own conclusions.
Yeah,
I'm with you. I'm with you.
But that's going to do it for us. It was a lively discussion. I felt really good about it, and I think you guys did too.
Yeah.
I think I'll be back. I don't know, Saturday. I don't know. Would be a good time to kind of do a last game preview of the season. I'm available through the weekend, so I work early in the day. So whatever, if either of you want to join on a Saturday or a Friday, I don't know. That's too close to what we just did, but I'm open to it.
No, let us know.
I'll let you know. Everybody
in the chat on X, I've seen a lot of you, and everybody here in the YouTube world. Appreciate you guys coming through. Thanks for all the questions. For those of you who are new to the channel or just popped in, thanks a lot. And we'll talk to you guys next time. And remember, go Niners.
Happy New Year's, folks.
Niners.
Peace.
Go Niners.